Humans are walking miracles, and that's why they're so valuable in our hospitals, Professor Kyra announced. Her words seemed to hang in the air as her class of alien students sat in stunned silence. The classroom, with its curved white walls and soft blue lighting, hummed with the weight of her statement. Yes, the professor continued, her voice filled with wonder and respect. You may have heard rumors, amazing stories of human healing abilities, but I assure you the reality is even more remarkable. The classroom contained many different alien species, each representing a different member of the Galactic Federation. There was the six-armed Viridian whose skin changed colors with their emotions, currently showing patches of surprised yellow. The massive Croth with thick gray skin leaned forward in his specially reinforced chair, his small eyes wide with interest. Even the usually calm Etheri, with their cloud-like bodies that floated slightly above their seats, seemed to pulse with curiosity. One student, a young Maldorian with silvery scales and delicate fin-like ears, raised a webbed hand hesitantly. But Professor Kyra, aren't humans physically weaker than many species in the Federation? How could they possibly be considered so special in medicine? Kyra turned her gaze to the student, her four eyes focusing warmly. Ah, you see, it is not their physical strength that makes them extraordinary. It's something far more unexpected, something unique. The professor activated the large screen behind her, and a series of images appeared. The first showed a human doctor, dressed in simple white clothing, standing beside a hospital bed where a massive Croth warrior lay injured. The human's hands were placed gently on the Croth's wounded arm, which was glowing with a soft golden light. This is Dr. Maya Chen during the Viridian Plague outbreak, Kyra explained. Note the lack of advanced medical equipment, the minimal technology, and yet this one woman was responsible for saving over 3,000 patients in a single week. A collective gasp rippled through the classroom. The Viridian Plague was known to be extremely deadly, resistant to most conventional treatments. The idea that a single human could have helped so many was astonishing. Another student, a crystalline Lamari whose body refracted the classroom's light into tiny rainbows, chimed in with disbelief. This seems impossible. What kind of technology did she use? Kyra's expression brightened. No technology, just her hands and mind. Humans have an unparalleled capacity for empathic healing and a remarkably adaptive approach to medicine. They don't just treat illness, they connect with it, understand it, and find ways to help the body heal itself. She gestured to the next image, which showed the aftermath of the plague. Hundreds of recovered patients of various species, their bodies showing the fading marks of illness but with clear signs of recovery. Among them walked human doctors, their hands occasionally glowing with that same golden light as they checked on their patients. It wasn't just her medical knowledge that saved these people, Kyra continued. It was her ability to adapt treatments to each species, to sense what was wrong on a level our most advanced scanners sometimes miss. And it is this very ability that makes humans so uniquely valuable, so extraordinary. The class was silent, absorbing the professor's words. They had all heard stories of human doctors, but this was something else entirely. This was a carefully developed ability that seemed almost magical in its application, a trait that defied conventional understanding of medicine. One of the students, a tall Etheri whose cloudy body sparkled with electrical pulses of curiosity, floated slightly higher. But if they are so gifted, why aren't there more human healers throughout the galaxy? Surely the Federation would want to. Kyra held up a hand, gently interrupting. Recruit more. They've tried. But humans are rare in our part of the galaxy, and those with the strongest healing abilities are rarer still. What's more, the training required is intensive. It takes decades for a human to fully develop these abilities. And the emotional toll is significant. They feel the pain of those they heal, to some degree. She paused, letting the gravity of her words sink in. No, the Federation cannot simply produce more human healers. We must treasure those we have and learn what we can from their remarkable gifts. The Maldorian student from earlier raised his hand again, his silvery scales reflecting the light as he moved. But Professor, isn't it unfair to place such expectations on one species? Aren't we asking too much of them? Kyra sighed, her expression softening. It may seem that way, but consider this, humans don't see their ability as a burden. For them, healing is as natural as breathing. They find purpose in it, fulfillment. It is not just what they do, it is who they are. The room fell into thoughtful silence, the students wrestling with this new understanding. They had always been taught that the Federation's reliance on human healers was simply a matter of practical necessity, a way to supplement conventional medicine. But now they realized it was something far more profound, something almost sacred. Kyra turned off the display and faced her class once more. Remember this lesson well. The galaxy is full of wonders, and not all of them involve destruction or power. Some are about creation, restoration, and hope. The professor glanced at the time, then nodded slightly. That will be all for today. I suggest you reflect on what we've discussed. There will be a follow-up session tomorrow where we will explore the scientific basis for human healing abilities. As the students began to gather their belongings and leave the classroom, Kyra watched them with a thoughtful expression. She had seen the miracles of human healing firsthand, had witnessed terminal patients walk away completely recovered after human treatment. She knew better than most that their abilities were not just impressive, they were essential. But as she watched the last of the students file out, a lingering worry nagged at her mind. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, and despite all the Federation's protections, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were not doing enough to safeguard these precious healers. There were so few of them, and the demand for their gifts was overwhelming. She feared that someday they might burn out, their compassion stretched too thin across too many stars. The following day, the lecture hall was filled to capacity. Word had spread quickly throughout the campus about Professor Kyra's revelations, and now every seat was taken. Some students even sat in the aisles, their attention focused on the front of the room. The excitement was palpable as they awaited the professor's arrival, their minds still processing yesterday's lesson. When Kyra finally entered, the room fell silent immediately. She walked to the center of the hall, her movements graceful and precise. For a moment, she simply stood there, surveying the room as if measuring their readiness for what was to come. "I see we have a few more attendees today," she remarked dryly, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. "I suppose you all want to learn more about human healers? Very well." She activated the large display once more, and the image of a planet appeared, a beautiful world with vast oceans and lush green continents. "This," Kyra began, "is Meridian, a former mining colony. You may have studied it in your history lessons, but let me assure you, what happened here was truly extraordinary, and it began with the arrival of a single human healer." The image shifted to show a human woman stepping off a small transport ship. She was of average height, with dark hair pulled back from her face, and she carried only a simple bag. Nothing about her appeared remarkable, yet there was a serene confidence in her posture, a quiet determination in her eyes. "This was supposed to be a hopeless case," Kyra explained. "The Meridian colonists were suffering from an unknown illness that had resisted all conventional treatments. Our best doctors had given up, declaring the colony lost. This human, Dr. Sarah Lynn, volunteered to help. She was alone, with minimal equipment, and facing a disease that had baffled our most brilliant minds." She paused, letting the gravity of the situation sink in. But instead of retreating or giving up, Dr. Lynn did something completely unexpected. She moved into the most infected area and began to live among the sick. The display shifted again, showing Dr. Lynn among the colonists. She moved from patient to patient, her hands sometimes glowing with that distinctive golden light as she touched them. Despite the obvious danger, there was no fear in her face, only concentration and compassion. "At first, Federation officials were baffled," Kyra continued. "They couldn't understand how this lone human could remain uninfected, let alone help others. But then they realized something even more astonishing. She wasn't just treating symptoms, she was communicating with the disease itself." A murmur of amazement rippled through the classroom. The idea that anyone could communicate with a pathogen was beyond comprehension to most of the students, whose medical training had always focused on fighting illness, not understanding it. Kyra gestured to the display, which now showed Dr. Lynn sitting beside a critically ill child, her hands hovering over the small body as tendrils of golden light seemed to draw darkness from the child's skin. "Humans call it deep empathy," Kyra said, her tone tinged with wonder. "They can sense the patterns of disease, the way it moves and evolves." Dr. Lynn discovered that the Meridian illness wasn't trying to kill, it was trying to communicate. It was a symbiotic organism that had evolved alongside another species, and on its own world, it provided benefits to its hosts. But in the colonists' bodies, the relationship had become confused, harmful. She paused, her gaze sweeping over the room. And then, on the 14th day, Dr. Lin did something that changed our understanding of medicine forever. The holographic display flickered, showing Dr. Lin in what appeared to be a meditative state. Around her, small vials of glowing liquid were arranged in a circle. Her hands moved over them, infusing each with golden light. Dr. Lin created a mediator, Kyra explained. Not a cure that would destroy the organism, but a biological translator that would help it understand its new hosts. She literally taught the disease how to live in harmony with the colonists. The room was deathly quiet as the students tried to process what they were seeing. This wasn't medicine as they understood it. This was something more fundamental, more profound. It wasn't about defeating illness but transforming it, turning a deadly enemy into a potential ally. Within 3 weeks, the entire colony was recovered, Kyra continued. But that wasn't all. The colonists found that they had gained new abilities, enhanced immune systems, faster healing, even increased longevity. The very organism that had nearly killed them was now strengthening them. She turned to face the class, her expression serious. And that is how a single human healer, with no support and no advanced technology, managed to save an entire colony and, in the process, created an entirely new approach to medicine, one that doesn't see disease as an enemy to be destroyed, but as a relationship to be understood and balanced. The room remained silent, the students who had come expecting to hear more about miraculous cures now confronted with something far more revolutionary, the realization that humans didn't just heal, they transformed. They had found a way to turn medicine itself into a conversation, a dance of mutual understanding where both healer and patient emerged changed. One of the students, a young Viridian whose skin now showed patches of deep blue wonder, raised 2 of her 6 arms. Professor, if humans can do this, why isn't this approach used everywhere? Why do we still rely on conventional medicine at all? Kyra's expression softened, and she let out a long, thoughtful breath. That, my dear students, is the question that challenges every medical director in the Federation. We don't have enough human healers to treat everyone this way. Their gifts are rare and precious, and the training takes decades. What's more, few other species have shown the ability to learn these techniques, though many have tried. She let those words hang in the air, a gentle reminder of the limitations that even the most advanced civilization must face. The class had come seeking answers but found instead a deeper mystery, the unique connection between humans and the fundamental forces of life itself. What makes humans different? Asked another student, a crystalline Lamari. Why can they do what the rest of us cannot? Kyra smiled, pleased by the question. That's what we'll explore tomorrow. The biological and psychological factors that make humans uniquely suited to empathic healing. For now, I want you to consider this. Perhaps it is not despite their physical fragility that humans heal, but because of it. As the students filed out of the room, their minds buzzing with new ideas and questions, Kyra watched them go with satisfaction. Teaching about human healers always transformed her students, opening their minds to possibilities beyond the rigid structures of conventional medicine. It reminded them that healing was not just a science but an art, a relationship, a conversation between living beings. The lecture hall was more crowded than ever the following day. Word had spread across the entire campus and beyond that Professor Kyra was revealing insights into human healing abilities that few had ever considered. Today was the day she would address the most fascinating question of all. What made humans uniquely suited to become the galaxy's most gifted healers? As Kyra entered the hall, the atmosphere crackled with anticipation. She moved to the center of the room with a confident stride, her expression both serious and excited about what she was about to share. Today we will explore the most remarkable adaptation in the galaxy, Kyra began, her voice resonating in the silent room. You've learned of the extraordinary healing humans can accomplish, their unusual approach to disease, and their ability to communicate with life forms on a cellular level. But all of this stems from something even more fundamental, something buried deep in human biology and psychology. She activated the display, and the room dimmed as complex anatomical diagrams appeared, cross-sections of human bodies highlighting various systems. These are the results of decades of research, Kyra explained. Studies conducted across multiple institutions to understand what makes humans so uniquely gifted at healing. The display zoomed in on the human nervous system, highlighting an intricate network of connections that spread throughout the body. Alongside it appeared comparative imagery of other species' nervous systems, all different, all less extensively interconnected. The human nervous system is unique in the known galaxy, Kyra said, her voice filled with quiet awe. While most intelligent species evolved specialized neural pathways optimized for specific functions, humans developed what we call radical neuroplasticity, an extraordinary adaptability that allows their brains to rewire themselves in response to new challenges or environments. The display shifted to show brain scans, with certain areas highlighted in bright colors. Most species' brains become relatively fixed in adulthood, she continued. But human brains remain highly adaptable throughout their lives. This allows them to develop new skills and abilities well into old age, including the ability to sense and interact with the biological processes of other species. Kyra gestured to another image, this one showing a human hand touching an injured alien limb, with an overlay of energy patterns flowing between them. But neural plasticity is only part of the story, she said. The true source of human healing ability lies in something even more fundamental, their extraordinary capacity for empathy. The display changed to show comparative data on emotional processing across species, with humans showing significantly higher activation in certain brain regions. Humans evolved as intensely social creatures, Kyra explained. Their survival depended not just on understanding others' actions but on feeling what others felt. This empathic ability became so developed that it eventually transcended their own species, allowing them to sense the emotional and physical states of any sentient being. She paused, letting this sink in before delivering the most astonishing revelation. And this is where their healing ability originates, in a uniquely human phenomenon we call compassionate resonance. When a human healer touches a patient, their nervous system literally begins to mirror the patient's condition. They don't just treat illness, they experience it, understand it from within, and then guide it toward healing. The room was utterly silent as the students tried to comprehend what they were hearing. This wasn't just a skill or a technique, it was a fundamental difference in how humans experience the world, a difference that made them natural healers on a level that no technology could match. The golden light you've seen, Kyra continued, is the visible manifestation of this resonance, a bioelectric field generated when the human healer's nervous system synchronizes with the patient's. It's not magic or even advanced technology, it's biology, but biology so sophisticated that it took our scientists centuries to begin understanding it. She moved closer to the front row of students, her voice dropping slightly as if sharing a profound secret. But this gift comes at a price. Human healers feel echoes of their patients' pain. They carry the memory of every person they've treated. The most powerful healers can burn out if they don't learn to protect themselves, to maintain boundaries between their consciousness and those they heal. The display changed again, showing medical data on human healers, stress hormones, neural activity, immune function, all showing signs of strain after intensive healing sessions. This is why there will never be enough human healers to treat everyone in the galaxy, Kyra said softly. Not because we lack the technology to train them, but because the emotional and physical toll is too great. Only those humans with extraordinary resilience can sustain a lifetime of healing work. She paused, then added, and this is why every human healer in Federation space has a team of caregivers whose sole responsibility is to care for the healer, to ensure they rest, recover, and don't lose themselves in the suffering of others. The silence in the room was profound as each student grappled with this new understanding. The humans, a species they had often thought of primarily in terms of their technology or culture, possessed something far more valuable, a biological gift that made them natural bridges between different forms of life. There's one more thing you should know, Kyra said, her tone becoming even more serious. Something that isn't widely discussed outside medical circles. The display changed to show a series of star charts, with certain regions highlighted in soft blue. Human healers become more powerful the more they practice, but there seems to be no upper limit to their potential. Our oldest and most experienced human healers have demonstrated abilities that defy conventional explanation, regenerating limbs, curing conditions thought permanently debilitating, even transferring life force from themselves to others in critical situations. She let that statement hang in the air before continuing. Some researchers believe that human healing abilities represent not just a useful medical tool, but an evolutionary leap, a new way for conscious life to interact with the biological world. If this is true, humans may be not just healers but harbingers of the next stage in galactic evolution. A Croth student in the front row shifted uncomfortably. Professor, are you suggesting that humans are superior to other species? Kyra shook her head firmly. Not superior, different. Specialized. Every species in the Federation has unique gifts and abilities. The Lumari can perceive quantum states. The Etheri can process vast amounts of information simultaneously. The Viridians can communicate across vast distances without technology. Humans can heal through touch and empathy. She smiled warmly at the class. This is why the Federation works, because each species contributes something the others lack. Together, we are far greater than the sum of our parts. As the class period neared its end, Kyra's expression became more serious once more. Remember this above all: human healing is not about power or dominance. It is about connection, understanding, and balance. The greatest human healers speak of their gift not as something they possess, but as something they participate in, a dialogue between different forms of life, seeking harmony. With those final words, she turned off the display and regarded her students with quiet intensity. Class dismissed. Tomorrow, we'll have a special guest. Dr. Maya Chen herself will join us to demonstrate and answer your questions. The students erupted in excited whispers as they gathered their belongings. The opportunity to meet one of the galaxy's most renowned human healers was beyond anything they had expected from the course. As they filed out, chattering eagerly about tomorrow's class, Kyra remained at the front of the room, lost in thought. She had taught this material many times before, but each time she was struck anew by the wonder of it. How a seemingly ordinary species from a small planet on the galactic rim had brought such a revolutionary gift to the stars. The humans, it seemed, were not just another Federation species. They were living bridges between different forms of life, their empathy reaching across the biological divide to create harmony where discord had reigned. And in a galaxy often troubled by conflict and misunderstanding, there could be no more precious gift than that. The next day, anticipation filled the lecture hall long before class was scheduled to begin. Students arrived hours early to secure seats, and those who couldn't fit inside crowded around view screens in neighboring rooms. Faculty members from other departments had canceled their own classes to attend, standing along the walls with expressions of barely contained excitement. When Professor Kyra entered, the buzz of conversation immediately ceased. She smiled at the assembled crowd, clearly pleased by their enthusiasm. "Before I introduce our special guest," Kyra began, "I want to prepare you for what you're about to witness. Observing a human healer at work is not like watching a surgeon or a medical technician. It's an intimate experience, one that many find profoundly moving. Don't be surprised if you experience strong emotions. This is normal and expected." She paused, scanning the room to ensure everyone understood. "With that said, I'm honored to welcome Dr. Maya Chen, Senior Healing Specialist of the Federation Medical Corps." The door at the side of the lecture hall opened, and a human woman entered. Dr. Chen was shorter than many had expected, with silver-streaked dark hair pulled back into a simple knot. She wore a plain white tunic with no insignia or decoration. Nothing about her physical appearance suggested extraordinary power, yet the room fell into a reverent hush as she walked to the center of the stage. "Thank you for the kind introduction, Professor Kyra," Dr. Chen said, her voice soft but clear. "I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you all today." Her eyes, dark brown and remarkably warm, moved across the room, seeming to make contact with each student individually. Several gasped softly. They could already feel something, a gentle awareness that seemed to touch their minds like a whisper. "I understand you've been learning about human healing abilities," she continued. "Today, I'd like to show you what these abilities look like in practice, but first, I want to correct a common misconception. What we do isn't magic or supernatural. It's simply a different way of connecting with the living world." Dr. Chen moved to the center of the stage. "I'll need a volunteer with a minor injury or illness. Nothing severe, please, this is just a demonstration." After a moment's hesitation, a young Kroth student rose from his seat. He limped slightly as he approached the stage, favoring his right leg. "Training accident 3 days ago," he explained gruffly, clearly uncomfortable being the center of attention. "Tore some muscle fibers in my leg." Dr. Chen nodded, gesturing for him to sit in a chair that Kyra had brought forward. "May I?" she asked, indicating his injured leg. The Kroth nodded, and Dr. Chen knelt beside him, placing her hands gently on either side of his massive gray knee. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, gradually, a soft golden glow began to emanate from her palms, spreading across the Kroth's leg like water flowing over stone. The Croth's eyes widened. I can feel, it's warm. And there's a humming? Like something's moving inside the muscle. Dr. Chen nodded, her eyes half closed in concentration. I'm communicating with your body's healing systems, helping them organize their response. Your species has remarkable natural healing abilities. I'm just enhancing and directing them. As the students watched in fascination, the golden light pulsed and shifted, sometimes brightening, sometimes dimming, occasionally forming intricate patterns across the Croth's leg. Dr. Chen's expression changed subtly throughout the process, a furrowed brow, a slight wince, then a small smile. After about 5 minutes, the glow began to fade. Dr. Chen removed her hands and took a deep breath, as if surfacing from underwater. Try standing now, she suggested. The Croth rose cautiously, then with growing confidence put weight on his injured leg. His eyes widened in astonishment. It's completely healed. Not even sore. A murmur of amazement rippled through the room. Dr. Chen smiled, but the students with sharper eyesight noticed that she looked slightly tired, with a faint sheen of sweat on her forehead. As you just witnessed, Professor Kyra explained, stepping forward, Dr. Chen established a healing resonance with the patient's body. The golden light is a visible manifestation of this process, bioelectric energy made visible as it transfers between healer and patient. Dr. Chen nodded. What you couldn't see was the information exchange happening simultaneously. I could feel exactly where the damage was, how the muscle fibers were arranged, which ones were torn, and what was needed to speed their repair. Your body already knew how to heal itself. I just provided additional energy and direction. A Viridian student raised 2 of her 6 hands. Did you feel his pain? Yes, Dr. Chen acknowledged. Not as intensely as he did, but enough to understand it. This is why human healers must train extensively in mental techniques, to experience others' pain without being overwhelmed by it. Could you heal anything? Asked another student, a floating ethery. Dr. Chen shook her head. There are limits. Extensive tissue damage, certain neurological conditions, and some genetic disorders require teams of healers working together. And some conditions are beyond even our abilities. She paused. Death, once it has truly taken hold, cannot be reversed, though we can sometimes call back those who have just begun to cross that threshold. The Lumari student from the previous day's class raised a crystalline hand. Professor Kyra mentioned that human healing ability might represent an evolutionary development. Do you believe this is true? Dr. Chen considered the question carefully. I believe that all conscious species in the galaxy are evolving, not just physically but in consciousness. Humans may have developed this particular ability first, but we're certainly not the endpoint of evolution. In fact, she hesitated, glancing at Professor Kyra, who nodded encouragingly. In fact, we've recently discovered that certain members of other species can learn aspects of our healing techniques. Not through technological means, but through developing their own empathic abilities. The Federation has quietly established a cross-species training program for those who show potential. This revelation sent another wave of excitement through the room. The idea that these abilities might be learned rather than simply inherited opened possibilities that few had considered. Which brings me to an announcement, Professor Kyra said, stepping forward again. Beginning next semester, this academy will host a pilot program for students showing empathic potential. Dr. Chen and other human healers will train a small group in the fundamental techniques of empathic healing. Applications will be accepted from all species, though capacity is limited. The room erupted in excited conversation. Many students immediately began discussing whether they might qualify, what the training might involve, how it could change their career paths. Dr. Chen raised her hands for quiet. Before we conclude, I'd like to offer something to all of you. When the room had settled, she continued, if you're willing, I can create a brief empathic connection with everyone present. It won't be a full healing, just a moment of shared consciousness that will help you understand what we've been discussing. This is completely voluntary. Nearly every hand, tentacle, and appendage in the room raised in enthusiasm. Dr. Chen smiled. Very well. Please close your eyes, or whatever sensory organs your species uses for visual input. Try to relax and open your mind. She closed her own eyes and raised her hands, palms outward toward the audience. The golden light appeared again, But this time it didn't remain localized. It expanded outward in gentle waves, washing over the entire room like a warm tide. The students' reactions varied according to their species, but all felt something extraordinary. The Viridian's skin cycled through colors of wonder and joy. The Etheri pulsed with bright internal light. The Lumari refracted the golden glow into countless rainbow patterns. The Kroth sat perfectly still, their usually gruff exteriors softened by expressions of peace. For a brief moment, everyone in the room felt connected, not just to Dr. Chen, but to each other. They sensed the uniqueness of each consciousness present, the beauty of their differences, and the harmony of their shared existence. It was a profound experience of unity without loss of individuality, of connection without invasion. When the light faded and Dr. Chen lowered her hands, many students found themselves with tears or their species equivalent streaming down their faces. The room remained silent for several minutes, each person processing what they had experienced. Finally, a young Maldorian broke the silence. I felt everything, everyone. But I didn't lose myself. Is that how you experience the world all the time? Dr. Chen shook her head, smiling gently. No, not constantly. That would be overwhelming. But this is the foundation of healing, the recognition that separation is, in many ways, an illusion. We are all part of the same great pattern of life, just expressing it in different forms. She turned to Professor Kyra. I believe our time is up, but I'll be available for individual questions in the atrium later today. As Dr. Chen left the stage, the room gradually filled with conversation again, but it was different now, quieter, more thoughtful, filled with wonder rather than mere curiosity. Professor Kyra stepped forward one last time. Class dismissed. But remember what you felt today. Whether or not you pursue training in empathic healing, you have experienced something precious, a glimpse of what true connection feels like. Carry that with you as you continue your studies and your lives. The students filed out slowly, many still deep in thought. Professor Kyra found Dr. Chen waiting in her office, looking tired but satisfied. That went well, Kyra said, closing the door behind her. You gave them quite an experience. Dr. Chen smiled. They were remarkably receptive. I sensed several with strong potential, particularly the young Viridian with the yellow patches. She has natural empathic abilities that could be developed with training. Kyra nodded. I'll make note of that for the program selection committee. She paused, studying her human colleague with concern. You look tired, Maya. Are you getting enough rest between assignments? Enough, Dr. Chen replied with a small shrug. There's always more need than there are healers to meet it. You know how it is. Kyra's 4 eyes narrowed. I do know, which is why I worry. The Federation pushes you human healers too hard. You need proper recovery time. Dr. Chen's smile turned wry. Perhaps you should establish a class on caring for the caregivers as well. Perhaps I should, Kyra agreed seriously. In fact, that gives me an idea for next semester's curriculum. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, two colleagues who had worked together for many years. Finally, Dr. Chen spoke again, her voice softer. Days like today remind me why I do this work. Those students, seeing their understanding expand, feeling their consciousness open to new possibilities, it's as rewarding as any healing I've done. Kyra reached out and squeezed her friend's hand. You're changing the galaxy, one mind at a time. That's a different kind of healing, but no less important. Outside the window of Kyra's office, students crossed the academy grounds, many still discussing what they had experienced. The knowledge of human healing abilities was spreading, not as a curiosity or a medical footnote, but as a fundamental shift in how the galaxy understood connection, compassion, and consciousness itself. And in this sharing of knowledge, perhaps the greatest healing of all was taking place. The slow, steady bridging of differences between species, the recognition of a shared living essence that transcended physical form. It was a healing not just of bodies, but of the very fabric of galactic society. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Professor Kyra and Dr. Chen remained in quiet conversation, two beings from vastly different worlds united in a common purpose: to teach, to heal, and to guide the next generation toward a future where the gifts of all species could flourish together in harmony.